Hello everyone, we are presenting to you EPF4706 Rice Processing for production of rice flour. Before we start, I would like to introduce our group members, which is Maria Shahira, Muhammad Azim Firdaus, Muhammad Noor Akmal Rizal, Muhammad Zafar Hafiz, and myself, Ida Shariza. In this video, we would like to present to you about the abstract of this project, objective, introduction, problem statement, discussion about how the rice flour is processed, the conclusion.
This is project about rice flour production. Commonly, rice flour is made from rice kernel and used as a thickening agent in cooking. However, rice flour manufacturers in Malaysia are limited. Rice flour can be produced by several methods, which are dry, semi-dry, and wet milling. For our product, wet milling method was applied. The process flow of the production is starts with soaking rice grain in water for about 4 to 5 hours at room temperature. Continue with grinding in excess water using hammer mill and stone mill. Then drying with recirculating dryer for 1 hour at 55 degrees Celsius. And lastly, end with sieving using siever machine. The special characteristic about our product is it is an excellent gluten-free product, enhancing the crispiness in breakfast cereal, and lastly, it is suitable for babies. The objective of our project is to introduce a better alternative method of rice flour manufacturing, to provide a method to produce high yield of production and good quality of rice flour. And lastly is to discuss suitability technology in each process in order to increase productivity.
Rice flour, also rice powder, is a form of flour made from finely milled rice, and it is produced from whole or broken kernel of brown or white rice. So, depending on the specific end use, both waxy and non-waxy type rice is used in flour milling. Rice flour is common substitute for wheat flour because and it is used as thickening agent in recipes and refrigerated or frozen since it inhibits liquid separation. So liquid rice flour varies widely based on the type of rice, mill processing, and starch content. The function of rice flour in baking is used as an alternative to wheat flour in gluten-free baked goods and greatly used as functional ingredients for most frozen food products. Usually, the production of rice flour comprises of three different methods, which are the semi-dry grinding method, dry grinding method, and wet grinding method. As you can see from the figure, it is from Champage 2004. The manufacture of rice flour and their application, which is from the brown rice mill or brown rice mill rice broken, is clean and true for the step, which is first is their soak and draining, and this is for wet milling and semi-dry. Wet milling and undergo for dry and grinding and becoming rice flour. This method is suitable for making noodles, cake, crackers, rice paper, egg roll wrapper. Meanwhile, for dry milling, it is air classification or enzyme digestion, and it can produce two types of rice flour, which is the usual rice flour and the high protein rice flour. The usual can be used in baked goods and puff and extrusion cooked food such as baby food, breakfast cereals, and snacks. For higher protein rice flour, it can use for instant milk, roll, and pudding. Now let's take a look at the comparison in rice flour processing methods. As I just mentioned just now, there are three different methods, which is semi-dry grinding, dry grinding, and wet grinding. For semi-dry, the rice, two rice variety will ferment in water for 16 hours, which is soaking, and then crush and dry at 60 degrees Celsius for 4 hours, which is partial drying, and to reach the moisture content to 24%, and then it was made and finally dry at 60 degrees Celsius for 12 hours and sieve with a mesh size of 125 microns. For dry grinding method, the mill rice grain will ground twice using a vertical disc mill, and the flour sample will pass through a 100 mesh sieve. The grinding method is quite short than the other two methods. And the wet grinding method, which is will be discussed in our project. The local and foreign rice was soaked in water for 4 to 5 hours at 30 degrees Celsius and when milled in excess of water using a wet grinder, and is dry in hot air and in oven at 40 degrees Celsius overnight, and it was reground and sieved with a mesh size of 125 micron to obtain the rice flour. So the problem of producing in rice flour in our country is the milling technology are way behind than another flour milling technology, such as the mill equipment selection and their operative parameter determination to suit different characteristics of various wheat cultivar as well as required flour specification for a variety of grade and end users. Next, the outnumber of local rice flour manufacturer. If we notice, the rice flour brand in our if you found in the supermarket, there are already a few brands of rice flour from a few different of rice flour manufacturer. So this is why this is because sadly our country still imported the rice flour from our neighbor country, which is Thailand, to make sure the stocks of the rice flour in supermarket and grocery store are sufficient for customer. And it is also when producing the rice flour, the low quality of rice flour is happen or occur due to the stock handling. So the color can be affected because of mishandling during flour processing. So discoloration of grain may have occurred when the wet paddy is not handled properly and then will turn the colors from white to yellow. So the flour process of rice flour processing using method wet grinding method, which is start with soaking the rice grain in water for 4 to 5 hours at 30 degree Celsius, and it was grind in excess of water, and it was drying using hot air of oven at 40 degrees Celsius overnight, and then it was go through for the reground and sieving with a mesh size of 125 microns to obtain the rice flour.
Soaking is an essential step in wet milling since it alters the gross composition and distribution of nutrients within grains. Soaking is a hydration process in which water is diffused into rice grain, which is necessary for the full gelatinization of starch. It's also reported that 40 to 45% moisture content is needed to achieve the desired starch gelatinization. This process is crucial due to it can soften the rice by absorption of water and make it much easier to crush suitable for the next step, which is grinding process. In this process, there was no special machine for rice soaking. The process was done in a simple tank that was only filled with water. But there is several experiments that was run on how effect of soaking condition on rice. A study by Kijima reported that ideal condition for soaking polished rice for the preparation of wet meal rice flour is between 50 to 60 minutes at room temperature, as it is important that the absorbed water permeates the rice structure evenly. These soaking conditions allow for the high yield production of fine, high moisture rice flour with low starch damage. However, a study from Chiang and Le, soaking was found to affect the particle size of flour, probably due to softening effect of water during soaking. Extended soaking time resulted in fine flour with less damaged starch after the wet milling. Hence, the soaking time is extended for 4 to 5 hours at room temperature to give full gelatinization without affecting too much on the starch.
So next is the grinding in excess water. So many parameters involved in the grinding process and related to the materials such as the grinding method and machinery, grinding time, and the strength and moisture content of the material affect the powder characteristic. The amount of moisture in food materials before grinding is a particularly important factor because it helps determine the material's physical properties and the powder properties. So in the wet grinding technique, rice grain were ground using stone mill with excess water and after subjected to soaking for several hours at rice to water ratio of 1:1. The slurry obtained was filtered and pressed at the semi-dry residue was collected. The time taken for grinding in excess water are varied according to the quantity of supply. And for wet grinding, hammer mill and stone mill were used as in the figure that is shown in the slide. Wet grinding process exhibit rice flour of lowest amount of damaged starch granules of 3.24% with finest average particle size of 9.0 micrometer. Overall, the findings suggest that the wet grinding process can be regarded as the potential flour grinding practice since it produces flour with lower starch damage and finest average particle size as compared to others.
For the drying method, we choose the recirculating dryers. So this system, which is the mechanical dryer, are used to remove water from the wet grains by forcing either ambient air or heated air to the grain bulk. Okay, as we can see in the figure, the process is the grain will continuously moving from top to bottom through the drying bin, passing first the tempering section and then the drying section. So it will be heated by the air at temperature 55 degrees C, and then the single pass is around 60 minutes. Okay, the process time is 60 minutes. So for the recirculating dryers is chosen because it delivers much better quality than a fixed bed dryer since the moisture gradients are much lower. So the difference with this method for the recirculating dryers, many Asian countries are using these batch dryers because it can increasingly being used by the private sector. So the grain quality or the product will be high quality and safely to consume. Okay.
Next, I will proceed to explain what is the process after drying. The dried flour needs to be reground again into fine flour. This is to ensure there is no oversized flour in the products. The fine flour will be more smooth and it will be able to pass through the specific mesh of sieving screen. After that, the rice flour will be continue to the sieving process, which is it will let the larger particle to trap on the mesh screen, and only specific small particles such as 100 mesh size will pass through the screen. And finally, the larger particle will be eliminated, and only fine flour will be ready to continue to the next process. The advantages of this process are to maintain the quality of flours. This process also can increase the productivity of products and can fulfill the customer's demand. After doing some research and view some journal, the suitable machine for this process is finite sieve rotary sifter, where this machine can sieve fine flour to the end of rice flour product. The design of this machine is very suitable for loose and porous powder, and this machine is able to sieve from 60 to 200 mesh size, which is suitable for rice flour production. The capacity of this machine is quite large, where it can sieve around 50 kg per hour to 5 ton per hour, and it can be adjusted. This machine offers a high standards of hygiene since it can operate the product easily and provides efficient dust tight operation. Next.
Okay, so I will be presenting about special characteristic of rice flour. First is the excellent performance in gluten-free products. Rice flour show an improved performance in gluten-free products such as bread, cake, and pasta over standard meal products. Our native rice flour eliminates the need for a complex combination of multiple starch and flour types and keeps the ingredient list simple and clean. Rice remains a key ingredient for quality gluten-free products going to head-to-head with other wheat-based counterparts. Rice flour is ensured to be delivering on texture, taste, and with strong nutritional profiles. Second for the specialty of rice flour is enhancement in crispiness in breakfast cereals and coated snacks. Using rice flour in extruded breakfast cereals has an unrivaled advantage. The unique rapid hot set properties of rice flour upon cooling, porosity of the cereals can be more easily controlled, crispiness enhanced, and bowl life extend. When used in coating of snack products commonly based on wheat flour, rice flour offers a gluten-free alternative and provides a significant beneficial impact on crispiness sensation and adhesive properties of the snack coating. So this gluten-free also affect the crispiness and the adhesive properties of food products. And the third one and the final one is ideal for baby foods. Rice intended for baby food grade ingredient is subject to a specific sourcing strategy executed in close collaboration with rice farmers and millers. Through a full supply chain control process, the rice has been monitored and the supply chain quality from field to farmer, storage and miller, including delivery at the production facilities. This process allows transparency of agricultural and primary step in processing starting on the field. The selection of baby food rice and farmers is driven by the agricultural methods and best practice, such as control and recorded use of plant protection aids. stringent hygiene requirement during harvest, storing and handling, as well as the highest achievable level of rice purity. So for this special characteristic, in conclusion, the rice flour offers an excellent performance in gluten-free products. Second, enhancement in crispiness in breakfast cereals and coated snacks. And last one is ideal for baby foods.
For the contribution of product to rice production sector is, as we can see in Malaysia, I give the example, the brands or varieties of rice flour is very limited, because we can see at the market only 2 brands. It's not many, but it's just a few brands which is familiar, which is Cap Gajah and Cap Teratai. So that's the 2 brand that we can see in the market. So the contribution of this process is, we can increase the varieties of brands, so that the consumer can choose a lot of brand to consume. And then this rice flour are good substitute for wheat flour, which causes irritation in digestive system, which is gluten allergic. And lastly is the increase the yields of various products from rice. So as we can see, we have a lot of product that that come from rice, such as rice flour. Okay, so that's some contribution to the rice production sector. We can increase the varieties of brand, increase the yields, and also substitute for wheat flour.
As a conclusion, there are 3 methods in production of rice flour, which are semi-dry grinding method, dry grinding method, and wet grinding method. The chosen method shows that the wet grinding method is a very suitable method for problem solving in this process. The problem solving discussed in the report definitely achieve our objective, which is to discuss a better alternative method of rice flour manufacturing. In each process of wet grinding method, we also discuss about the high technology used for each process. Start from soaking process in water at a specific temperature, and then grind it in excess water using a wet grinder. Then dry in hot air and use an oven. For the next process is reground and sieve with a mesh size of screen to obtain rice flour. Finally, this production of rice really gives many benefits and also contributes to healthcare, since it gives a lot of benefits to patients. That's all from us. Thank you.